fun. Welcome. My name's Anthony DeLonges. This is my partner, Bob Chapin. We're going to share an adventure. For over 25 years as a professional actor, choreographer, fight director, and teacher, my love affair with the sword has sustained me. It literally changed my life. I'd like to share with you some of the things I've discovered along the way. The purpose of this tape is to help you get the job done with safety and style. The material is arranged in a sequence of simple lessons. Please, don't skip ahead. Master the information in each lesson before you advance to the next one. There's a wealth of material inside these exercises. Utilize this tape as your reference library. The more you learn, the more you're going to discover inside the material. And finally, practice. There's no substitute for it. Everybody wants to be Errol Flynn right away. It doesn't work that way. You've got to work for this. You're going to need every skill you've got when you walk onto a professional set. The time to rehearse is now. Let's get started. There's nothing more important than safety. We're going to construct a safety protocol. Constant, ever vigilant, always working, and always invisible to the audience. They should never be aware that it's there, but they're instantly aware when it's not, and it makes them very uncomfortable. Make safety a part of your creative process. Build it into the choreography, and you will have an invisible ally that's always working for you. We're going to begin by developing fingertip control of the weapon at all times. It starts with the grip. The sword has got to be a fluid extension of your arm. It has no life of its own until you pick it up, but it's very needy. It's going to demand all of your attention all the time. Don't let this happen. The sword is a logical extension of your arm, and the grip is the key to having fingertip control of the weapon at all times. It's not about swinging until you run into something. It's about controlling the weapon. And here's how we're going to do it. When I grip this, I am using what's called a pronated grip, which means the hand slightly turned down. I'll explain this a little bit more fully as we move through the lessons. For right now, think in terms of this is a pivot. Okay, it has to be loose in the hand. The best story about holding a sword comes from Scaramouche, where you're referring to holding a bird. By that, this is alive. If you don't hold it tight enough, the bird flies away. If you squeeze it too hard, you crush the life out of it. You don't want that. The sword will help you do all the action if you allow it to. Use gravity as a friendly force instead of an adversary. Allow this to pivot from a 90 degrees to a 60 degrees, and that's all. You'll notice this squeezes and stops in your own hand. So when I'm making a cut, whether it's to the head, I extend and squeeze. I can only go from 90 to 60 degrees. I can't go any farther. All right? When we start making cuts in the horizontal, either supinated with the palm up or pronated with the palm down, it's the same idea of starting from 90, squeezing to 60. This happens by I'm wrapping my first two fingers around and the thumb behind. Now this is very important because the thumb signals where the blade is. I make every cut and every parry or defense with my thumb. The thumb aligns up with the bone in my forearm, and we're going to talk more about skeletal alignment in the next lesson. But for right now, think in terms of my thumb marks the back of the blade. These three fingers wrap around, the last one loops here. I am releasing to the top of the knuckles, and then I squeeze into the palm of the hand. Top of the knuckles, squeeze into the palm of the hand. These fingers wrap around. The sword cannot get away. It will not fall out. It won't be knocked out of your hand. The fingers are wrapping around. But again, extend, releasing at the top of the knuckle, 90 degrees. Squeeze, 60 degrees. Your fingers are wrapped around. The sword is there in your hand, secure, confident, constant, and in control. That's the grip. En garde. Now what does that mean? It means I'm ready for anything. I can advance, I can retreat, I can attack, I can recover back and defend, I can re-attack again because my feet are underneath me. You'd be amazed how many actors manage to get their body where their feet aren't. This is really very, very simple. It's as easy as walking, and we've all been doing that for years. Find yourself a stance that's comfortable. Okay? This is a bit like standing on the head of a pin. This is a little bit too wide. So come in somewhere that's comfortable for you, probably just outside your hips, certainly no wider than the outside of your shoulders. All right?
Good. Imagine there's a line between you. Put your rear heel on the back of the line. Take your front foot and let it slide outside of the heel till it's about the distance of your hips in front of you. All right? So if I were standing here like this and simply rotated to my right, there's my on guard stance. It's that simple. Okay? Now, from here, I can advance, I can retreat. My legs are like shock absorbers to cushion energy and dissipate it throughout my body, or they're like coiled springs to launch me forward into my next attack. All right? They need to be bent. Your knees bend over your toes. That's how we're constructed. So in this position, which is designed to coil this rear leg where all this power is underneath you so it can be released at any time, all right? This knee needs to stay over the toe. So the legs stay turned out over the toes. The knees stay bent. So you have this nice balanced shock absorber at all times. Now, the advance, very simple. It's not ballet, it's not toe ball heel, it's heel ball toe. Just the way we walk. Heel ball toe, the weight shifts, this foot comes forward, heel ball toe. Same thing if I was going backwards, all right? So with my simple advance, it's reach forward, recover the rear foot. Reach forward, recover the rear foot. When I'm retreating, extend the rear leg, recover the front foot. Extend the rear leg, recover the front foot. In other words, whatever direction you want to move in, that's the foot that moves first. Advance is the front foot. Retreat is the rear foot. And it's just that simple. Okay? Let's take a look at what's going on with the arm. People, when they start getting a sword in their hand, all of a sudden their arms are all over the place. The faster they want to go, the more energy that they use. We don't want to get into that. We want to use as little energy as possible, because the less energy you use, the less you have to control. And the more relaxed you are, the more aware you can be about what's going on. All right? Now, once again, we're going to try and use the natural alignment in our body to do the work for us. If I was standing here and I saw something I liked, I'd point at it. Aha! Look where my hand is. It's parallel to the ground, straight out in front of me, the way it would swing if this was a pendulum. It just reaches up here like this. All right? From this position, if I assume my on guard, this naturally turns my body into a 3/4 position. My lower body, we already know, heel out of the heel, stepping forward, knees bent. You don't want to turn into profile because it does rather unfortunate things to your lower body. Also for camera work, even working well in profile, it has a tendency to hide my face. When I drop into 3/4, that closes and I can be seen from all directions. Very important when you're an actor. So from here, heel out of the heel, arm coming up and forward like so, either vertical, palm down, vertical, palm up. This doesn't change. Leave the hand where it is. You're going to notice you're leading with your right pectoral. So when I put the weapon back in my hand with my nice, relaxed, pivoting grip, I'm going to extend the arm for my attack. It's going to be in the middle for my on guard, and will come back close to my body for my defense. Now for my on guard, I like to be halfway in between, ready to attack or ready to defend, so I'm in the middle, hence on guard. And I take and I drop the blade slightly across. So I'm extended forward, and the blade is slightly forward, kind of 90 to 60 to about 45. Now, a lot of people will teach you an on guard in center. Combatively, this is absolutely correct, because this is very disconcerting for your partner. Well, your partner's not your enemy, he's your ally. So what I like to do is build in our first safety factor, which is lift the tip up above his face, so there are no accidents, and just slightly off to one side. So if something happens and you stumble, or he's not paying attention and he walks forward, he's not going to walk into the tip of your blade. Let's look at this one more time. Heel out of the heel, stepping forward, arm comes forward, sword in the hand, 90 degrees, 60 degrees, 45, arm nice and easy and relaxed. From the side, stepping out, here like so, extend, turn it over, advance, retreat, on guard. Simplicity is going to be one of the great constants in our work. The old adage, less is more, is never more true than when you're working with a sword. Slow down, do less, be specific. One of our first constants we're going to utilize is whenever we're attacking, the arm will always fully extend first. Remember, in our on guard position, we were halfway in between. You come back close to the body to defend. In on guard, you're ready to go in either direction. When you attack, the arm extends first. The blade is at 90 degrees. You squeeze to 60. All right? So you put the whole thing together, it becomes extend, squeeze. But the blade is always last, never first. I never point shoot. Because you'll notice what happens is all the power is being thrown to the tip of my blade. Plus, because my arm is bent, my tip is dropping. Two things will make this happen. Either my arm isn't fully extended, that will drop the tip, or I'll bend my wrist. Both of which are bad because what happens is when I drop my hand here, the tip is now in my partner's face. This is very hazardous. Instead, I want you to fully extend, then squeeze. And I cannot hit my partner this way. This is our first cut, the cut to head. Let me get Bob to come in and help us. Bob? Good. Now, if Bob doesn't parry at all, I should still never hit him because he always knows I'm going to extend and then I'm going to squeeze. All right? Now, also, our distance is going to play a factor. First, let's talk about targeting. We cut to 3 places. Straight for the head, even with the deltoid tricep junction, so I'm down out of his face and I'm horizontal. This is palm down. This is called pronation. Or I'm fully extended and squeeze 90 to 60 degrees to cut here on the other side, also at the deltoid tricep, just like I was here, but on his chest side, and horizontal. For right now, there are no diagonal cuts. This is both hazardous because it lifts the tip up into his face, and it's very non-specific. I want my cut to look like this, here. I want it to threaten him here. But I have the same thing in operation. First extend, then squeeze the fingers. First extend, then squeeze the fingers. On this side, extend and squeeze the fingers. Let's take a closer look at our head cut. Remember I said I want to fully extend, keeping my hand in this position. What's the natural position to point? Right here, parallel to the ground. Nobody points like this. Nobody points like this. Nobody comes around the circle. It's very awkward. If your hand just reached up, like we were going to shake hands, and I pointed at what I wanted, here's my cut to the head, right here. Extend, squeeze. Now, Bob knows that I'm always going to extend my arm first before I squeeze so he can get my timing. He knows no matter where I come from, I'm going to extend and then squeeze. Or if I come from here, I'm going to extend and then squeeze. So when we put this together, it becomes squeeze or squeeze or squeeze, okay? Because as we work closer and closer, I want him to arrive just before I do. But so close that the audience can't tell he's actually there and waiting for me, all right? Later on, as we start doing drills, we're going to try and get that timing. The two of us have got to work on the same rhythm. All right, back to our cut to the head. If I, drop the parry for just a minute, Bob. If I extend here and I bend my wrist, notice what happens. This is down in Bob's face, and he will be very uncomfortable with it, and rightly so. Same thing happens if I don't fully extend my arm. This automatically drops this down into his face. You are asking for somebody to get hurt. Never. Always extend and squeeze. The other aspect of this is, right now we're using very nice light swords. This is a theatrical representation of a small sword. Bob is using something that's more along the lines of a theatrical rapier. Very nice, very light, very fast, a lot of fun to work with, and you don't hit very hard with it. Easy to control, but still we want to keep our safety factors always working for us, because as the weapons get heavier, or as you get tired, if you don't have this foundation of safety, you're going to have trouble. Notice when Bob extends for his head cut, good. When he is here, he can't hit me, all right? When I come up here and parry, oh, this is out in front of me. If Bob were to pull through this, go ahead, Bob, pull through. I am under and behind my parry. More on that in just a second. But first, let's see what he's doing with his hand. When he extends and squeezes, everything is fine. The tip stays out of my face, all right? If Bob starts to lift his hand, watch where the tip of this goes, okay? A lot of guys like to work this grazing energy. But if something goes wrong, that tip's in your partner's face. I don't care for it. You decide. But also notice here's something else going on. Whenever you bend your wrist, you have focused all of the energy into one small place. In martial arts, we call this the quick strip, okay? Because even when he's in a position of strength, if I can isolate the energy, one finger, into one small area, whatever he's holding is now mine, all right? So for you to practice this movement, you are essentially constantly disarming yourself. You are throwing away your control of the weapon. And the heavier the weapon gets, the less control you have of it. This is a dangerous situation. Please do not work like this. Instead, I offer you this technique. The arm extends fully. The tip is in that nice pivoting position. It rocks. Gravity's going to work for you. This is going to stay alive. And when it makes contact, tap my hand and recoil. When it makes contact, it's going to bounce off. This is alive. That recoil is going to carry him to his next cut or to his parry. So we have a conversation going between two live blades. You've heard the expression, a live blade. We want to keep these alive. They're part of us. It's an ally. It's not a club. Okay? Now, let's take a look. Relax for a second, Bob. Which brings us very smoothly to distance. If you think in terms of dividing the blade in half, your attack should take place in the middle of the upper half of the blade and your defense in the middle of the bottom half, the strongest part or the fort of the blade. All right? So when I'm working with Bob, can I have you back, Bob, please? If Bob is, here's my distance here. When I extend and squeeze, I really can't hit Bob. I wouldn't want to have to live by this. That's why it's only a minor one of our safety factors, but very, very important. But at the same time, when I extend and Bob lifts to parry 5, boom, he appears to intercept my attack. Same thing on 3. When I cut him here to the shoulder, all right, if Bob were to drop his parry, and I go 90, 60, squeeze, if I pass this through, I am just slightly out of distance. But when he parries 3, extend and squeeze, he appears to intercept my attack. Now the nice thing about the fact that he's the distance of his forearm in front of me is I can pull through this and not hit him. Same thing over here. If he doesn't parry 4, he simply drops the blade, I extend and squeeze, I can't hit him even if I pass through. But I'm never going to pass through. I'm always going to extend and squeeze and he'll parry, boom. But if I wanted to, I could, because he's behind that parry. We are this distance apart. You'll notice I am in perfect distance for the parry, but I'm just slightly out of distance from the body. Yet another safety constant, all right? Now let's look at these two cuts. We've talked about our targeting. Straight for the head, vertical. Horizontal, just under the shoulder, right at the deltoid and tricep. Again, horizontal. Horizontal, right at the deltoid tricep on the chest or open side, all right? So, if Bob is cutting my head, boom, and I lift, and of course I am under and behind this parry, so if Bob pulls through, ha ha ha, he can't get me, not even my leg, all right? Back to this if you would, Bob. Good, now when it comes my turn to cut his shoulder, what's the least amount I can do? Well, my upper arm is already pointing at him, so I simply lower until my whole arm is the height I want the blade to travel, and I squeeze my fingers right there. When Bob is in his 3 parry, I squeeze and I bounce off, ready to once again lift to come back up to my 5. Lower to cut shoulder, lift to protect the head. Shoulder, head, shoulder, head. Now this gets pretty darn quick because, slow down please, because I am doing so little. Part of my arm isn't moving at all right? Notice I am not doing this, because if I do, I got to come back, and I might be late. So this is an exercise in minimalism. How little can I do? What is my task? I'm trying to cut his shoulder. What's the least amount I can do to get there? Oh, boom, and back to here. Now, when I cut on the other side, on the chest side, I simply brush my hair back and extend my arm. When the blade is horizontal and the arm is extended, I squeeze. Now, All that seems simple enough. When I come back to protect my head, though, Bob cuts 5, and I do the natural thing, which is come up here like this. Uh-oh. The whole idea of a parry is I am between, my blade is between what's me and what's coming at me, okay? So when I am here like this, if I go over the top, I'm essentially throwing his blade into my face. Bad idea. So in order to sweep the target area, the way I did over here, watch when I cut here, I simply lift my hand. I am automatically sweeping the target area. He simply drops his hand. He is automatically sweeping the target area. When we do the other side, I come around, I extend, I squeeze, and I let the recoil carry me away. Now, my hand is in perfect position. If only the blade was here, I could simply lift back up again, because my upper arm and my hand are already pointed where I want to be. So what I do is this. Squeeze. I turn my hand till it's out of the way. I leave my arm where it is, and I allow the blade to fall. Now this falling pendulum blade will pull my hand up to protect my head. Let's look at that again. Extend, squeeze, turn the hand out of the way, allow the blade to fall, and reach forward for the parry. Okay? Notice that my upper arm remains forward. I do not do this and change my distance and change my structure. Now my structure is pointed over there. I want to be here, ready to cut this side and this side. All right? Now these two cuts, this cut and this cut, are referred to as moulinades. Moulin in French means windmill. So what I'm essentially doing is a circular cut here. Now you notice I just brought my hand over here. Later on, when you are doing a character and this becomes a choice to help articulate that character, you're welcome to do anything you want with the arm, all right? But for right, I mean, you can get into all kinds of wonderfully fancy things. But for right now, practice doing as little as possible. The simplest way to me to defend head and cut shoulder and defend head and come up and around and extend and squeeze, turn the hand, allow the blade to fall. Notice how my upper arm has not changed throughout all of this. The hand is exactly the same. Extend, squeeze, and lift. Extend, squeeze, turn the hand, and lift forward. I am the distance of my upper arm behind my parry. You are always under and behind your parry because your arm is reaching forward. All right? I was a competitive saber fencer, and I based my system on the 5 pronated saber parries, which are prime, seconde, tierce, quarte, and quinte, which is simply counting in Old French from 1 to 5. Prime is 1, seconde is 2, tierce is 3, quarte is 4, and quinte is 5. Now we've already taken a look at how we simply get from here and lower and squeeze to cut the shoulder, and here to lower, around, squeeze, turn the hand, and lift back up to 5. Let's take a look at these 2 parries, which are 3 and 4. The way these parries got their numbers comes from the reason this prime is called 1. It's the first parry you do if someone did a surprise attack on you and this came out of your scabbard. That's prime. And then you simply count. Seconde 2, tierce 3, quarte 4, and quinte 5. Looking at parry 3 and parry 4. From our on guard position, all right, here I am here. Now, because I'm in this 3/4 position, I don't have to move very far. I simply bring the arm back and pivot out about 45 degrees. Move back through center and pivot across 45 degrees. Now, I want you to notice that my arm is always in front of me. The arm does you no good beside you, and it's even less helpful when it's behind you. This may seem obvious, but most people want to come back for their parries. The closer you parry to your body, the closer your partner's blade is getting to you and your face usually, all right? You want to meet him out here. When you meet him out here, you deflect him early. And you essentially take and deflect this energy around it. And you notice I don't have to go very far. I'm at a 45-degree angle. Because I am out in front of me, the distance of my upper arm, I only have to parry so the inside of the guard is even with the outside of my body. This is very, very confined and very easy, and as a result, very fast because it's not very big. okay? Now, what I want you to think in terms of is, my positions may be just a little bit different from yours, but I want you to bear with me. You know what you know already. I want you to take your time and see what this is having to offer you, and then you can choose what is most useful. But for right now, when I parry in the high line, my hand is dropping down so that's just slightly below my belt. So my guard is covering down here at the hip, and I move straight across. This whole thing moves as a unit. Because what I'm doing is creating an impenetrable barrier, a wall of steel that nothing can get past. All right? So, when I parry in the high line, my hand drops straight across. This will be important because later on when I parry in the low line, my hand lifts, and you'll notice the blade automatically clears the target area. When I go back to the high line, my hand drops and the blade swings like a pendulum. So we're going to use gravity force. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to use structural alignment for strength. We're going to use the skeleton instead of muscle. Now, most people parry 3 about here, all right? When you're working with a light weapon, you'll probably get away with it, especially if your partner's doing what they're supposed to do and that's not hit too hard. But if you start working with somebody who doesn't have control, this parry isn't going to help you. And with a heavier weapon, it's pretty much useless, all right? Instead, what I want you to do is move this out until your elbow is behind your hand. Now, my arm is in front of my body, so there's like a line here. This comes back, and this pivots over 45 degrees. This always keeps me, if you think of this as a shield, my hand is behind the shield, my elbow is behind my hand, behind the shield, and my body is behind my hand, behind my elbow, behind this shield. Nothing can get through this because I have the strength of my forearm, the bone in my arm to do the work, as opposed to your fingers and your thumb. It won't be strong enough. Let's get Bob up here to illustrate that. Bob, if you would. Now, on guard. So if I ask Bob to parry 3, all right? Now, this is an excellent parry. 90% of the people you work with are going to parry like this. The difference is, now watch, get a good grip on that, Bob. Bob's rather a strong fellow. Okay? With my little finger, I can violate this, which means if I'm one of these guys who really likes to go until something's going to come through this, I am going to go around and I could crash that parry. So what I'm asking Bob to do is pivot out so that his elbow's behind his hand. You notice this stays in front of the body. His hand's going to be just a little bit lower, and he's going to pivot out to here. Now, he is a strong resist. He's as strong as he needs to be. Without expending any energy, he's going to absorb and dissipate the energy of my attack through his arm into his torso and down into his legs. So he's going to stay in balance. But this 45-degree angle is going to pivot me out. So he is always the distance of his forearm behind what's coming at him. All right? And because he's here, he's as strong as he needs to be, both down here where I'm supposed to be cutting, and if I happen to be up here, he still has that alignment. Remember, the thumb tells him where this is. The thumb lines up with his forearm. His elbow is behind his hand, and you have built a barrier. Very important. Good. Moving across to his 4, he simply moves over to 45 degrees. Now again, I would like this a little bit lower. Okay, because we are using as our target areas just underneath the shoulder, right here. Once again, the closer I get, the angle deflects me away, and if I pull through, he's not there, because he's the distance of his forearm behind the parry. This is his shield. He's behind the shield, his elbow's behind his hand, his body's behind that. This is one of our constants. 4, straight across to 3. Good, just a little wider, okay? Excellent, right there. Straight across to 4. Now you'll notice up to 5. Yes, and he releases the hand here, he has the same thing in operation. He is now the distance of his upper arm in front of him, and because the wrist is straight here like so, when I press against this, the energy is dissipated through his body. If he does what many people do, which is here, and this happens because, hang on a sec, Bob, take a grip, just grip it. Now, when he grips it and turns this into a club, this is now dead, okay? Plus, his elbow has drifted out. Watch what happens now. He doesn't have any strength. There's no structure behind this. But if he releases this, allows the finger to wrap, now you're going, How can I hang on to this? If his wrist is straight, he's not letting anything get focused into one small area. You're going, how can I hang on to that? It's just my fingers. The same way you would hang on to a bar. If you wrapped your fingers around it, you can support your own body weight because all of the weight is being pulled into your fingers. Same thing here. Any energy that I put into this blade is throwing the sword into his fingers. So it's actually making his grip stronger. But this allows your elbow to drop underneath, and if he keeps this the height of the floor, he is now under and behind this, and once again, his elbow is behind his hand. Very, very important. So we're using skeletal alignment instead of muscular strength. If he bends his wrist, this is again going to collapse. If he lets his elbow drift out, this is again going to collapse. He can't dissipate it over the entire structure because there is no structure. Excellent. Good. So when I cut his head and I want to parry 3, I simply drop and pivot out 45 degrees. Good. And I cut his head, I extend and squeeze, and Bob comes up and around, and I move over 45 degrees, and I'll adjust our distance slightly, and again, 5. Excellent, Bob. And down, and so on. Cool. And we will trade parts, and he'll cut my head. Good. And the easiest one is simply to lower, and notice how I'm going to leave my upper arm alone. I'm not going to do anything with it. Because if I don't move it, I don't have to recorrect it. If I do this, oh geez, I got to come back here. And if I do this and I'm over here, it's a whole lot easier. Keep it simple, keep it specific, and do as little as possible. Good. And those are your first 3 parries. 5, 4, 3. An awareness of distance is absolutely essential in all of our work, and yet it is one of the most elusive things that we're going to try to impart to you. If you get too close, you not only hide the story, you endanger your partner and you're in grave danger yourself of getting smacked. So what I want to do is combine the information that I just showed you and do a drill that is designed to give you perfect cuts, perfect parries, and develop an awareness of perfect distance. Whenever you are working with a partner, it is a constant adjustment. It becomes a dialogue. Story-wise, we are doing a cause and effect relationship. We are articulating story, we are defining character by the choices we make and we execute. It's very important that you keep that kind of sensitivity and awareness going. It's also very important that you maintain your distance. There are many different distances. Right now, what we're going to do is work ourselves in our perfect cut, perfect parry range. All right, Bob, could I have you please? Good. Now, once again, remember, we are imprinting muscle memory. Slow down. You are going to learn faster if you go slower. And try not to waste yourself. Don't do anything you don't have to do. Do as little as possible. Remember, later on, when you've mastered this, when you have a good basic foundation, you can start to pick up speed. You can start to make little adjustments in your technique to articulate your character. That's where your creativity comes in. But for right now, the exercise is how little can I do? How can I learn to do just enough to accomplish the task and no more? You're going to find this becomes very challenging. It's an exercise in minimalism. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a distance. Now right here, kind of sword's point, and if we drop and we come on guard, remember we're lifting the tip so it's out of our face, which I do by simply dropping the hand. Some people like to come in guard down here. Whenever I'm in this kind of guard, I open the distance more. But for right now, with the arm simply extended, and we're engaging in 3, meaning on the outside of the blade. All right, now if Bob were to parry 3, you'll notice I can't hit him. It means I have to step into distance. So I will step in 1 small step. Ooh, I am now perfectly in my blade. Here's the middle of the blade. My attack should be in the middle of the top half, so right about there, okay? But if Bob were to lower his parry, I can't hit him. I'm just out of range for there. But I extend here. Good, Bob cuts my head. Perfect. He is once again, his arm is extended, parallel to the floor. He is in the top half, the middle of the top half of the blade. So we are in perfect distance, and if he pulls through here and I don't parry, I am still just slightly out of range. This is our correct distance. Okay, on guard. So this is the head cut drill for distance. I'm going to begin by cutting head, so I'm going to extend and squeeze, and I'm going to hit twice, because that means the blade is alive in my hand. 1, 2. And then Bob's going to extend, and I'm going to extend, and Bob's going to extend. And we'll do this twice. And we're going to slow down a little bit, because Bob and I have worked together many times, so we know each other and we trust each other. We have a tendency to pick up very quickly. So right now, I'm going to see, okay, I got to remember to keep that arm right there and not add any flourishes or filigree or anything that's not going to help me accomplish the task. I'm going to do as little as possible. Excellent. Okay? Now, with movement. Same drill, same distance, which means I have to step into distance. When I step in, Bob will wait for me and he will parry 5. Good. He will cut my shoulder. Whenever it's my attack, with every head cut, I will advance 1 step, but no more than 1 step, because I don't want to close the distance. Good. So we will repeat this twice. Now when it's Bob's turn to lead the dance, so every time it's his attack, he's going to step and I'm going to retreat. We haven't traded parts yet. Perfect. Now we will trade. I will cut head. We have just traded off. So now it's my turn to attack. So every time I attack, I advance 1 step. Maintaining a constant distance. Good. And as I get here, Bob's going to return and he's going to take over. And good. And 1 more. And we would come back into our engagement, check our distance. Pretty good. All right? So, slow down. Perfect cuts, perfect 45-degree angle parries. Perfect cut, deflect this to the outside. Don't go reaching for it. Remember, move to the position, guard the target, which is right here, right at the deltoid tricep. Allow it to come to you, absorb the energy and dissipate it through the whole body, and simply extend for your cut. Same thing when you're here, reaching out and forward, so the distance of your upper arm forward, lower, squeeze and lift. Try not to move this, because then you don't have to readjust it. Same thing here, drop and lift, and so on. Perfect cuts, perfect parries, maintain perfect distance. Only move as much as your partner makes you move. Don't drift apart, and don't get closer together. Practice. How'd that drill work for you? You went too fast, didn't you? Got too close. All right, there's a lesson here. Whenever you find that you're getting ahead of yourself, back up. Simplify. Let's take a look at another drill for distance, one that's just a little bit easier. We're going to go back a step. That initial distance that we established in our on guard, we're going to establish that, be aware of what we've done, and we're just going to maintain this. We're going to take out the cuts, we're going to take out the parries, and we're going to focus on one simple action, maintaining distance. Bob? So, we've gauged our distance. Good. We drop our hand to lift the tip. Our arm is still extended out here, though. Now, I am out of range for being able to cut him for a parry. I can't reach his parry, and I certainly can't reach his body. This is the distance we're going to maintain. Once again, make sure the tip stays up. All right? So, I am going to begin. I will take a simple advance. Bob will maintain. I will take another advance. I will take a retreat, pulling Bob with me. Bob feels like this is just a nice, easy, relaxed, static tension, okay? Bob can feel my body move. If I move too big, he will adjust. If I go back, he will adjust. But the idea isn't to fool Bob. The idea is to keep Bob and I moving together. So I will lead, step, and try to do a perfect retreat or a perfect advance. And then sometimes Bob will take over, and I'll try to maintain what he's doing. Ooh, okay. Oh, and he got me. All right? So that's the point. And it's very easy. It can happen to anybody. And what we need to do is find this distance and maintain this distance before we start adding things to it. All right? When you have got that and you're feeling a little bit more aware of, okay, I have stepped in too close. Well, that means my next step should be a little smaller to allow him to readjust the distance. Now we're back where we're supposed to be. Or if I retreat back. Then we can go back into our other drill, which was I will take one step to close the distance and cut his head. And I want to hit twice, nice and crisp. Then he will come to me. And I will advance and cut head. And make sure the distance. And I will advance and cut head. Good. And it's not necessary that I take big steps. What is necessary is that I move. Now Bob's going to take over, and he's going to do the same part in the drill, but he's going to drive me backwards. And you have begun a dialogue. Now instead of chasing him, I am retreating. And nothing I can do can stop his forward advance. Okay? It's time to take this impenetrable barrier that we've constructed to protect the upper lines of our body and extend it into the low line. The first parry we're going to look at is 1, or prime. Now, you already know how to do this. If you were in a perfect 5 parry, remember the arm is extended in front of you. You keep the upper arm forward and you bend slightly. So our same rules are in effect. I've got my elbow behind my hand and my body behind my elbow. I have retracted slightly to absorb and dissipate the energy. And because I am angled here, forward in front of my body, I am dissipating the energy around my body. If I were to take this structure, which we know works, and pivot from the shoulder, leave everything alone and simply drop it from the shoulder until my arm is parallel to the ground, this is my 1 parry. Because I am on this angle, I am still deflecting everything away, and I don't have to go beyond. You'll notice the inside of my guard is even with the outside of my body. That's far enough. Because it's out in front of my body, the distance of my upper arm, I'm going to be deflecting the attack away from me, and because I am the distance of my upper arm forward, any attack pulling through here, I'm going to be behind, so I'm going to be safe. This is also a parry that comes from cavalry. So this would be protecting my leg and my reigning arm. On the other side, my 2 is protecting my other leg. All right? Now, this one is a little tricky. Most people, they parry 2 like this. When you're working with a light sword, it's something you can get away with. I like to teach you one system that is going to give you a foundation that is going to protect you with anything you pick up. So I have made a slight adjustment. With my wrist bent, once again, I have all the energy focused in a small area, which means I have much less mobility. It's much more difficult for me to control this as opposed to here and here. Okay? The other thing is by doing this, I no longer have my elbow behind my hand. I am not nearly as strong here as I would be if I moved this out to 45 degrees and dropped the elbow behind my hand. So once again, this is in front of me, and my elbow's behind my hand, so I can absorb much more energy and dissipate it through the rest of my body. I would have more trouble with that with this. It's also a lot easier for me to go into multiple parries because I have this nice control of squeezing here. When I want to parry in the high line, I drop my hand, and gravity flips the blade into position while sweeping the target area. When I want to parry in the low line, I lift my hand, and the falling blade, once again, sweeps the target area. So by simply manipulating my hand and letting gravity work for me, this is a much easier position than to be working the tip of the blade. I have a lot of trouble with this. So I urge you to try and, now with this, imagine you're here like so. Just like we're doing in all our other parries where I'm 45 degrees, 45 degrees. For all intents and purposes, I am again at a 45-degree angle. I'm straight forward and at a 45-degree angle. Here, if I take and I put this outside the leg I want to protect, and I move the upper arm over to 45 degrees, and I allow the hand to drop another 45 degrees. This puts my elbow behind my hand. This is a parry that's going to work for you. It's a little tricky, it's a little awkward, and it's absolutely essential that you release your fingers. If I don't, if I take a grip on this, I can't do it. I will bend the wrist, my elbow will come up. But if I release, just like in a 5 parry, so now you'll notice, 1, straight across to 2, and keep moving until your elbow's behind your hand. And if I lift straight up to 5, this is the same structure because it works. 1 and 2. Drop the hand, 3 and 4. Lift the upper arm, 5. Drop back down to 4. Straight across to 3. Lift the hand, let the blade fall 2. Straight across to 1. Give that a try, and we're going to do some drills. Let's give you a drill that's going to give you a chance to practice these new skills. Remember, when you're parrying in 2, you're going to lift the hand and the blade will drop into place. When you're parrying in 1, it's coming straight across. Now let's look at our targeting. In the high line, our horizontals were here, right at the deltoid and tricep on each side. Down here in the low line, I like to use a classic saber cut, which is just under the belt, right at the break in the thigh, right at the top of the hip socket. This allows me to keep my cuts more horizontal, which I find it tells a much bigger and more dramatic story. Also, the audience can see this coming from longer away. It can be very fast, but it can also be very big. So if I were cutting in the high line, when I drop to the low line, I lower my body too, and I bring the entire arm in till once again it's extended forward and squeeze. If I were to go low on the other side, I'd bring it up and around, extend and squeeze, and back into the high line. Now you notice this is not a great deal of difference. Okay? So I'm going to accent this by high line, low line. I'm going to drop my body, but keep the blade horizontal. I don't like diagonal cuts for right now. Most people get very lazy when they go into the low line, and instead of bothering to drop and reach and articulate, they have a tendency to just kind of lean. And pretty soon this cut that was here, for down somewhere in mid-thigh, is down at the knee, and pretty soon it's down at the ankle, and pretty soon you're killing ants. And then up here, your cut that's supposed to be here, just under the shoulder, starts to drift up into the face, which is dangerous. And then half the time it gets up here, and pretty soon it's airplanes and ants, and airplanes and ants, and you get that pretty ugly Hollywood kind of windshield wiper fencing. Let's be a lot more specific than that. Nice and simple. The arm extends and squeeze. In the low line, drop your body just a little bit too. Okay? One other thing. Now, when I am here cutting head, I lift my hand and the blade automatically clears the target area. Just the way it does when I'm cutting here and parry 3 45 degrees, or here and drop my hand to parry 4. In the low line, I lift my hand, okay? So that this, because our target area is right here, you're going to find that your hand is covering your upper target while the blade is covering the lower target. Conversely, in the high line, your hand covers the lower target while the strong part of the blade, the bottom half of the middle of the blade, covers your upper target. So you have created a box of defense around yourself. Also, you're going to find that in working in film, most film directors and editors like to work in the top half of the body. So if you start doing very low parries and very low attacks, half of your story is disappearing out of frame. So see if you can make your adjustment to your technique to incorporate this. Then when you want to go down into the leg with an attack or a thrust, it means something because it's special. Okay? Good. So when I am here and cut head and I want to parry low 2, I lift the hand, the blade sweeps the target area. Come back, cut head. If I'm going to parry 1 and I do this, okay, I haven't swept the target area. We want to have that safety factor built in each time. So instead, after you've cut head, open. You want to make your opponent, that being the story we're telling, commit. You don't know where he's going to go from here. So you offer him the world. Meanwhile, you lift your hand and let the blade fall into place. Then when he commits to the low line, you just come straight across. So once again, you've got the blade very easily covering the target area. Now you already know how to do this. It's the same as when you were here and you turned your hand and you let the blade fall to parry 5. So here, you turn your hand, let the blade fall, so this is vertical, and you simply bend your arm. And you stop when your upper arm points at your partner. Don't go over here. This is a waste of your energy. Okay? Here, lift, let the blade fall, bend, stop here. So once again, you are only covering this 3/4 of your body that needs protecting on a 45-degree angle, deflecting everything around you. Bob, could you come in? Now let's put this together with a drill. Perfect cuts, perfect parries, perfect distance. I'm going to start by cutting Bob's head, so we'll get our distance, which means I have to step in 1 step, So I will advance, extend, and squeeze, hit twice. Bob will go to my low line. I will extend and squeeze, and I'll offer it to him and then close the line. Good, one more time. Extend and squeeze. Let me turn slightly so you can see this. Good, I will offer it to him and let the blade fall and then bend my arm. Good, okay? And we will trade parts. Bob will cut my head and I will lower my body. And Bob will cut my head and I will come all the way up and around and extend, keeping my hand straight out in front of me, and squeeze my hand. Once more, low line, he'll cut my head, and low line. Thank you, Bob. Once you have got that, and you're confident, and you're feeling this position, and this is not an easy position, it's a new one. You're going to have to learn this one. Remember, you are outside the leg you're protecting, your upper arm points over 45 degrees, and your elbow drops. That's going to tilt your blade ever so slightly to about 45 degrees. But our constant, the thing that keeps our skeletal strength intact, is to have the elbow behind the hand. Think of this as a shield. You want everything behind the shield and your body behind the elbow. When you've got that and you feel confident with it, add simple movement, a simple advance and a simple retreat. So from here, distance, on guard. Good, I'm going to cut Bob's head, and he's going to wait for me. On my next move, he will maintain this distance. And we'll repeat twice. Again, still double cutting to keep the blade alive in your hand. Now Bob will drive me backwards. We'll keep the same parts for the first part of the drill. Bob is leading this dance. Now, here we will trade. Bob will come at me, and because I've run out of room, I'll drive him back first. Good. Keep it simple, keep it specific, do it minimal. Now Bob's going to chase me. Drop your body. Perfect distance. And catch the last one and step out of distance, engage. All right? Practice. Now let's try and put those exercises together. Slow down. Your speed is going to come from doing less. Right now, you want to practice perfection. If you practice bad habits, you're going to perform bad habits. Remember, you're trying to imprint muscle memory so you don't have to think about it. Your body automatically goes to that parry. Later on, when you come up to a performance tempo and you have to adjust to your partner's varying rhythm, and then you have to work with whatever the surface is like and the kind of shoes you might be wearing in costume, all of these things, you're not going to have time to be making adjustments. You've got to know it. This is the time that you practice. This is the time you rehearse. Slow down. Do less. Awareness only comes from relaxation. The less energy you utilize, the less you have to control, the more relaxed you're going to be, the more aware you're going to be. So we want to put together both halves of that exercise, and then we're going to build on that. Bob, could I have you in, please? So we'll check our distance. We'll drop the hand so the tip is out of our face, and we're going to begin from distance, just moving into this perfect cutting range. Okay, without movement, high line. Good. To the low line. Now, right here, I'm going to notice that all I have to do is drop the hand and move over to 45 degrees. Good. I'm going to extend and then squeeze. Over here, I'm going to drop the elbow. It's very fast because I'm not moving very far, but don't go fast right now. Slow down. Be aware of what you're doing. Good. And right here, I extend. Now here, because I'm going into the low line, I'm going to lift my hand, and the blade will automatically pick up anything that's threatening me. Good. And once again, I will bring this arm over until my upper arm points at my partner. I will extend my arm, and then and only then will I squeeze the fingers. Good. And here, I offer it to him. I prep early by dropping the tip. Good. And all I have to do is move straight across until my upper arm again points at him. Now notice, one last time on this, how my upper arm stays in this position. Very little movement. All right, and with a little relaxation, I can now allow the arm to retract, because my positions are very exact. And then we would trade, all right? Bob, let's try this from a slightly different angle so they can see that. That's right, good right there. Good, distance and engage. And Bob's going to take the head cut. Once again, I fully extend. I bring my entire arm the height I want it to be at. Squeeze the fingers, turn the hand, leave the arm, let the blade fall and lift me up into my 5 parry. To the low line, I'm going to drop my body a little bit and extend till my whole arm is level with just under his belt, right at the top of the hip. Back to the high line. So you do the 2 highs first and the 2 lows. One last time. Do less. Extend. Notice how early I am protecting myself. So I can delay until just the last instant because I'm already protected. All right? Good. Then the same thing with movement. Let's move to this angle, Bob. So from here, distance, I will step in. Good. High line. High line. Low line. And Bob will chase me back doing the same part of the drill. Notice how the arm extends before the fingers squeeze. Good. Practice. Slow down. Be specific. Aspire to perfection. Remember, if you practice bad habits, you're going to perform bad habits. Work on it. We've been investigating the components of linear fencing. That's what allows, this 3/4 position is what allows our movements to be so minimal and so specific. I only have a very small area that I have to cover. I am hidden behind my blade so the barricade doesn't have to move very far. The real explosive power in linear fencing comes from this rear leg. We talked about the legs being our shock absorbers that absorb the energy and take us out of danger. They are also the coiled springs that lure my opponent into distance and then suddenly explode to drive the weapon through their body. This leg back here, with the foot turned out to give me maximum driving power, never roll this ankle, keep this foot flat on the floor. The arm extends, the weight shifts forward, and this rear leg snaps, all right? Now the structure is knee over the heel. This is pretty much a full lunge. To start with, I want you to investigate this structure by only doing a half lunge. I'm still going to extend fully. I'm always going to aim with the hand. Another one of our safety factors, and also one of the things that helps keep our story clear and specific, is I will always aim with the hand, extend the arm, and deliver with the legs. Now right here, this is just a half lunge. This is on about a 45-degree angle, but I still have the structure of knee over the heel and the back leg straight. This is easy to recover from. Extend, straighten the back leg, knee over the heel, half lunge. Later on, when you're feeling comfortable with that, extend, reach, and really kick this leg out here. And again, you're still rolling down heel, ball, toe. Check this out. Rock backwards and reach forward. Good. And recover back. Let's look at that again. Extend, advance, drive into your lunge. Sit on this back leg. Imagine you're going to sit on your rear foot. That'll keep you down. You don't want to do this unless you're playing Andrew Aguecheek or some other character who's supposed to look goofy, because you will. All right? Coming at you here. Here I am on guard. If I'm going to cut head, I'm going to extend, drive, and squeeze. I should make contact with the blade as my foot touches. If it were a thrust, which we'll explore later, I'm going to aim, let this pull my weight forward, and drive that back leg. All right? Explore that. Now, again, this should be as easy as walking. My advance is here. My retreat is here. My lunge is like taking 2 advances. Watch my foot placement. If I place my foot here and extend, my lunge is going to carry me out to here as if I'd gone advance, advance. Retreat, retreat, extend, lunge. Recover back to on guard. Give it a try. Take your time, slow down. Reach, feel the weight shift forward, extend the back leg, explore your balance. Later on, though, you want to get the look of the snap as this drives forward. And then sit to recover so you remain on one level. Practice. Let's start testing your skills with a different exercise. This is called the X in 4. I begin by drawing an imaginary X from my shoulder to my hip and from my shoulder to my hip. I will start with 4. Now, to keep things simple, I'm just going to call whatever parry I'm utilizing the cut to the same area. So when I cut to the high chest, to the 4 parry, that's a cut to 4. When I change and go to the opposite side of the body and cut low down here, that's a cut to 2. Up and around to cut 1, and back over the top to finish the last of the X points, that's a cut to 3. So an X in 4 begins in 4 and goes high, change sides low, up and around to finish off the last of the 4 points on the X to 3. All right? Bob, could you help me out with that? Great. We will get our distance. Here, I'm going to step in and extend and squeeze. Hit twice. Up and around to the other side and up and around. And then Bob's going to check that out. So I'm going to open up the target and he's going to extend in 4. He's going to trade sides to the other side and over here, and the last one's left is here. Good. One more time. I'm going to go high, so I'm extending palm up and squeezing. Up and around, keeping my upper arm extended and squeeze. Allow this to bend slightly, but keep the upper arm reaching. And squeeze and finish off with the last one. Extend and squeeze. And Bob once more. And high, low, low, high. Now Bob's just had 4 cuts in a row, so I think it's my turn. So I'm going to extend, all right, and cut his head. Good, and he's going to cut my head. Now it's my turn to cut X in 4. If you're doing well and the blade is alive in your hand and you're not turning it into this heavy club, you can try single cuts. High, low, low, high. Good. He's going to cut my head. I'm going to cut his head. There's our transition. Now it's his turn to cut X in 4. High, low, low, high. Let's try this on the angle so you can see it a little bit better. Once again, I will begin. Good. Now, keep it specific. I'm going to step into distance, and I'm going to extend. My whole arm is going to come the height that I want to be at, which is just under the shoulder, high. And I let this recoil, I'm going to do it again, Bob. I let this recoil lift me up and around to the other side. Low. Slight little bend in the arm, so the arm extends, and then the fingers squeeze, and the arm extends, and the fingers squeeze. Now, from right here, all I have to do is lift. Good. I extend again, 90 to 60, and it's Bob's turn. High. Notice how little I have to do. Lift the hand, the blades drop into place, straight across. Drop the hand, and the blade automatically sweeps the target area. Extend, and here. All right? So X in 4. Start first with double hits, and then go to single hits. When you can do the drill that we just practiced and have perfect cuts and perfect parries and step into and are aware of that perfect distance and make the necessary adjustments. If not, if the blade is alive in your hand and you're really focusing on minimal movement, remember, if you practice bad habits, you're going to perform bad habits. Right now, try to take away anything that's not helping you achieve the task at hand. You don't need to go around here, all right? From here, extend the arm, get the entire arm, the height you want the blade to be at, the blade will follow the arm. Keep it simple, keep it specific, because now we're going to move with it. Bob? First, we're going to start with simple footwork, the advance and the retreat. So we'll get our distance. Let's go over the X. And engage. So I have to step into distance. X in 4. I'm going to step in, single cut. Now, we've established our distance. He's going to move as I move. Low, low, high. Now, it's his attack, so he gets to advance. It's my attack, I get to advance. Good, and he's going to take me backwards with his 4 cuts. High, low, low, high, and on guard. Good. When you've got that, Let's add the lunge. What I want you to do is lunge on the first cut and the last cut of your 4-cut series. So from here, I'm going to begin by a lunge. Now I don't have to step in because my lunge is going to carry me into distance. Lunge. When I recover forward, Bob is going to have to adjust, but he can't step out of distance. So as I come forward, he only adjusts just enough. A simple advance. This is my last cut, so I lunge again, and Bob will have to adjust his distance. It's Bob's attack, so Bob lunges, and I recover. It's my attack, so I lunge. Good, and now Bob cuts me with his 4 cuts. Recover. As he comes forward, I adjust, retreat, lunge, which is a slightly larger retreat. Then I lunge, then Bob lunges, and we break distance into guard. All right? Let's take a look at that one last time on the angle, Bob. Good. So lunging on your first and your last. Now, Bob doesn't have a lot of room. If he runs out of room, I'm not going to just keep moving. I'm going to signal him and say, okay, you're out of room. Don't keep moving. So here we go. Recover, advance, lunge, 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 recovering back. Adjust, retreat, lunge, lunge, on guard. Keep it simple, keep it specific. If you're having trouble, if things are falling apart, go back a lesson. Go back and do just the drill in place without the movement. When you've got that, add simple movement. The advance, the retreat. When you've got that, bring back the lunge and the recovery. This is going to give you an awareness of distance. Slow down, be specific, do less. You're working on perfect cuts, perfect parries, perfect distance, and a real awareness of what's going on. Take your time. Now's your time to rehearse and have fun. Advanced footwork. Ooh. Don't let the title scare you. This is just a minor adjustment with the things you already know. I want to give you a little bit more vocabulary for the lower body so that we can get a nice syncopated rhythm between what our feet are doing and the music that we're making with the blades. Starting from our simple advance, knees bent, these are our shock absorbers and our coiled springs. Advance, retreat, nice and easy. There's a move called a passado, or a passe en avant, or a pass forward. For simplicity, we'll call it a pass forward, or a pass back. I'm passing my rear foot through to pass forward into an on guard position from which I will launch a lunge or another advance or some of the other footwork we're about to cover. Passing backwards maintains my alignment in my nice 3/4, simply passing the front foot backwards and recovering once again into an on guard position. Very, very simple. Second piece, patinando, which simply means extend the arm, because we always aim with the hand before we deliver with the legs. So I extend, and it's an advance followed by an immediate lunge. So the rhythm to this is extend, advance and lunge, or 1 and 2. Listen to the feet. Our final piece is called a balestra, which means a jump lunge. So what I'm doing is, the distance I would travel with a single advance, I am traveling by jumping, and both feet are hitting at the same time. Whereas a patinando goes advance, recover, lunge, the balestra is a jump to on guard, lunge. So, our pieces are advance, retreat, pass forward, pass back, extend, advance, recover, lunge. That's my patinando. So it's advance and lunge, retreat, retreat, or balestra, which is a jump to on guard, and you must be in bounce because you may have to get out of there. But you're jumping forward and then lunging from there, and recovering forward or recovering back. And it's just that easy. Let's put them to use. Okay, gang, this one's for all the marbles. We're going to put together the top and the bottom at the same time. Now the key is, plan what you're going to do and then execute the plan. It doesn't count if you're just kind of moving around and throwing the blade out there. Be specific, keep it simple, relax, slow down. Be aware of the necessary adjustments. Really get a dialogue going with your partner. We're going to try and incorporate the drill that we did before, starting in with a lunge with the X and 4, and I want to add to it a pass forward and the balestra. Bob, if you would please. So nice and slow, here's our distance. On guard, I'm going to begin with my lunge. I'm going to recover forward. I'm going to balestra or jump lunge, and I'm going to lunge here. Now when Bob attacks me, he's going to do a pass forward. So as he passes forward, I will pass back and have to retreat, but not out of distance. Good, then I will pass forward to attack Bob. Good, then we go back to what we did before, which begins with the lunge, X and 4, recover, balestra, and lunge. Good, now I will pass forward, and Bob will pass back. Hoo-ha. Let's do it again. And lunge, recover, balestra, lunge. Pass forward. I pass forward. Good. And lunge, recover, balestra, lunge, pass forward. Good. And pass back. That one's going to keep you busy for a while. If you're having problems, simplify. Take something out. Go back to just the lunge forward and back, then add the next element. Keep everything one simple adjustment. Don't lose what came before. First thing that goes when you speed up is technique. With technique goes specificity and your story and your safety.